Okay, welcome everybody to this latest edition of Cloud Lunch and Learn. I am Dwayne Netwick, your moderator here today. Feel free to, if you have any questions or comments for our speaker today, please put them in the comments I believe we're on YouTube today, and we can get those and answer those as throughout the session. But thank you for your attendance. Today we have Konstantinos doing a session on how to create Azure AI Assistants with Logic Apps. So really excited to see this one, and I will turn it over to you, Konstantinos. Have a great session.
Thank you so much, Dwayne. Nice to meet you, everyone. And thank you for joining us in today's session. Yeah, what we're going to see is Azure AI Assistants with Logic Apps. Before that, allow me to shortly introduce myself. I am Konstantinos. I'm a Microsoft MVP from May this year, and also an MCT. I work as a solutions architect here in Greece, Athens, Greece. I am a 20 years plus IT professional, starting with the very long time ago with Windows 95 and diskettes and all that stuff. Most of you may remember that. But yeah, things have changed. I went to networking and voice, and up from 2016 and on, I made a turn to cloud technologies, and I think I found my niche. So you can find more on my projects on these two links. You can also scan the QR where you will see the repo that I have for all the projects available through my blog, cloudblogger.eu. I mostly create a variety of solutions on Azure M365 and a little bit of DevOps. You will find a lot of applications with integration stuff, everything about innovative solutions in Azure, and things that have actual implementation logic and use cases. So you can get anything you want from there, make it your own, no problem, or you can just simply ask to contribute here. So enough with that. Allow me to change my sharing. Give me just a moment, please. I will present now the screen so we can have a start here. So I think it's this one. Yes. Good. You are seeing my screen where as you can understand, I have opened Azure AI Studio. Let me zoom a little bit for you to have better visibility. And also here we have the portal of Azure. So let's take it from the start. Very recently, when someone logs into ai.azure.com, which is the offering for Azure AI Studio from Microsoft, you can see that when you go to the home here and start with your project, you will find, among others, the AI Assistants tab, which is right here on your left. I will show you exactly how to get through this, but I'm just showing you that this is still in preview. This is a new offering for the AI services available from Microsoft, and it starts touching the term Azure, uh, not Azure, AI automation. Okay, AI automation is going to be a term that I'm confident we're going to see more and more in the coming months and years as well. Automation, as we know it, especially from the IT perspective, is something that it is well known, and we can probably present already use cases and operational things that we can do. For example, infrastructure as code, right? Infrastructure as code provides us a way to automate our infrastructure deployments with some code and, of course, pipelines. The GitHub Actions also provide us automation capabilities, Azure DevOps as well. And now we have the term AI automation, right? And AI automation, how we can describe what AI automation does? I will try to describe it through this offering, the AI Assistants offering from Azure AI Studio. Well, it is a new capability that gives us this assistance, right? Where we can, of course, create new assistants. We can select our own assistant. I mean, I can save this one. It is in autosave now. Things are changing because it is in preview. So if I open this menu, you will see that I have the ability to select specific assistants while I'm creating also from here, delete them, and also view the code. So let's get back here to the automation term. AI automation through Azure AI Assistants is the capability that we are given to automate a variety of operations utilizing the AI models of our own and the ones that we get through Azure. And specifically in our example, it's going to be Azure OpenAI GPT-4o and Logic Apps. And not only this type of integration, we are also able to add our own data. For example, we can provide our own files to this service so the assistant can bring up information about the data that we have provided. We can allow this assistant to work with code. They are able to write and run code in a sandbox execution environment. This means that with this switch turned on, the assistant can run code on its own iteratively to solve more challenging coding problems, math problems, data analytics problems, and of course we can utilize the same file upload here, the file search switch, so the assistant can use it when they do the code analysis, the code running tasks to help us get a better solution through this utility. Now, I have to warn you here that since this service is in preview, there are going to be some issues that you may discover, and I'm not saying that you're going to be frustrated with, but yes, there might be a chance that you say, oh my God, what is happening now? So give it a time. It is a service in preview. When I'm sure that when it gets GA, we are not going to have these small, a little bit of annoying issues. Together today, we're going to probably see some of these issues. I will try to avoid them, but to tell you the truth, since we're exploring something quite new, it's better to fall into these small uh, problems so we can see how we can bypass them, what's the issue, why the issue is here, and how we probably can make suggestions to the team to make it better. Everything is on our hands. Uh, it depends whether we have the appetite to, provide suggestions to the team. All in all, we're going to see a specific case where we're going to ask through the playground chat to create a new infrastructure element, and this is going to be a new virtual machine. Imagine doing this by only using natural language, because this is what's going to happen. We are going to instruct the assistant to do something on our Azure portal, and this something would be deploy a specific type of virtual machine with a specific operating system and a specific size and in a specific region. I'm not extending this to create the virtual network to do everything. So I have my virtual network ready, okay? And since we have a limited time, and this is just a demonstration, we're contained into this small experiment. But imagine what you can do in reality, since we have logic apps in the workflow running our thing. So starting from AI, what we need the ability to open this AI assistance menu. And for us to do that, we can do it only on specific regions. They are not supported in every region. So please go through the documentation and find in which regions AI assistants are available. I think this information is updated constantly, but have a look before you start deploying. What I am doing is using, if I remember correctly, I'm using Sweden, right? I'm using Sweden Central. These are the regions where it is one of the regions that Azure AI assistants are supported. I'm having a new resource group. I think it's this one. Yes. We have some logic apps created. I'm going to go with you throughout all these things. Let's delete these ones. We don't need them. It's a network interface card left from the previous deployment. And I'm going to delete the public IP and the network interface card. Don't worry, I'm going to explain everything in a bit. So what we need is to be able to create a new project into a new Azure AI hub. Okay, for us to do it, we can go just through the portal and create a new AI service. So if you go to AI services here, you can search for Azure AI services. There's a separate grouping of the service here in portal, and you will find everything in these services. Okay, if you search here, you will be presented with this option. So Azure AI services, you have the ability to create a new Azure OpenAI resource. So the usual flow is to go and create your first OpenAI resource, like this one, which is in Sweden Central. And then if you go to ai.azure.com, the portal itself will ask you which directory you're going to use and which project you're going to use. So if you're here in Azure AI Studio, you can change your directory from the settings here, okay, from your username in the upper right corner. You can switch directory, and when you switch your directory, you are in the home screen where you can select the project. Usually, how it goes, you need a hub, and the hub can contain different projects. So I am selecting this project, which has different types of services. Among them, we have a new deployment, which is a GPT 4.0. Okay, this is the one that we're going to use. So when you open eventually the assistance menu and you say, okay, I want to create a new assistant, you can see here that you have to select the deployment beforehand. Okay, so you want to create a new assistant, you have to select your deployment, your model. And this is because the assistant will be able to interact with you, provide answers, and execute the commands that you're going to provide. It is very important, as you may already know, to provide an efficient prompt, meaning an efficient system message as we know it so far. In this case, it is named instructions. So we're providing instructions to our assistant, and we're saying, you are a helpful assistant that helps users with their Azure virtual machine operations. And make it as specific as possible. I'm telling it, use functions to create resources based on the user input. And if the user does not provide all the required properties, we need name, location, size, and operating system. These are the four uh, variables that we are going to need. Again, I'm leaving out the virtual network. It's already there, and you're going to see how we are going to select it through our Logic Apps workflow. And if the user does not provide these needed variables, these needed parameters, the assistant will prompt the user for these missing properties one by one. It will start by asking the name, the location, the size, and finally the operating system. We are allowing the assistant to utilize code and run it in a sandbox to get additional help. Let me correct this. In the previous version of Assistants, we had to press save. There was a button here that said save. Now it is in autosave, so no problem. Scrolling down, we have here the tools where again we can attach already our vector store. So this is very important. You don't have to pre-create the embeddings, try to find the correct database to store your embeddings. We have already the vector store here for our files in case we want to utilize our own files, right? We have the switch on for the code interpreter to make it more efficient, to make it be able to run code if needed. In our case, I think it's an overkill here, but anyway, I'm leaving it open. And we have the ability to create functions, which is actually the logic app. So if we go to add a function here, we have two examples. The first example is get weather, and the other example is get stock price. These examples, however, are giving us the schema that we need to create into our own function. So let's go to the logic app selection. Now, be careful here. If I select my pre-existing logic app, which I'm going to show you, of course, and press save, I will get this message. And this is number one annoyance. Okay, number one annoying thing that is getting for us. I'm not trying to troubleshoot this, so I'm canceling it and I'm saying I want you to use my own function. So how we're going to do this? Let me show you. I'm going to select this assistant. I think it's this one. And if I go here and manage, I have here my own function. In reality, if you go and select your logic app, it will do exactly the same thing. Now, because this is in preview, obviously, we're getting this warning message that anyway does not allow us to proceed. So what we're doing, we're creating our own function with some details that we make the assistant understand that yes, you're going to use this logic app. And how we're going to do that? Through this specification, which is a JSON schema, by the way. Let's have a look. First of all, and the most important maybe detail, it's this one, the name. In the name, we are providing two underscores, ALA meaning Azure Logic Apps, again two underscores, and the name of the logic app that exists in our Azure portal. So you don't have to go here and say, okay, use this logic app and fall under that warning that you saw earlier. You can do it by hand just by creating this schema. And to tell you the truth, it's very easy to create it. You can see here how easy it is, and I'm going to show you also where you can find it in my blog, so you don't have to try to find around. Eventually, you're going to create it on your own, but I'm trying to make your life a little bit easier. So the name, then a description where we can have a description and understand what we're doing here, and starting with parameters and the properties, which are the name, which is a string property, and the description. The location, again, a string property and the description. The size, which is again a string and the size of the VM, and the operating system of the VM. Finally, we are saying that, okay, all these parameters are required. Okay, so we have created our function here, and we are telling it you're going to use this logic app. Let's go and see how this logic app is built. So you can see here in my portal, I have two logic apps. Until now, only consumption plan is supported. I have found some information regarding the standard plan. I'm sure this will be something that we see as a change soon in the Azure AI Assistants. I don't know if today or yesterday or in the previous days this has changed, but as of my knowledge until now, this type of integration supports consumption plan only. So let's go to our um, workflow and let's going to see the designer, which is the most approachable way to create a logic app, even if you have absolutely no idea or want to have any idea about coding. Okay, logic apps, by the way, falls under the low code naming or subset of services. Uh, you don't need to be a coder per se, but it's good to have some some knowledge of coding and understand, for example, what is a variable and what is a parameter, what is string, what is array, that type of stuff. Again, if you are a very good coder and you know how to write some code, you can do amazing stuff with logic apps. It is mandatory to have this type of task in the beginning of your logic apps when an HTTP request is received. And I'm sure that everyone can understand why. And even if we don't understand why, because I didn't understood, I'm going to explain. It's very easy. Each time that I'm running something here and I'm pressing the submit of the message, and of course I have a function here enabled, the Azure AI resource named the project here, the project name, is going to send an HTTP request to this URL. And it will start firing up the rest tasks of this logic app. That's why we need to start with a when HTTP request is received. And this is it's not something that I created. You can find it into your logic app designer. If I press here for a new task and I search for this, it will appear. So all we have to do is create the schema. And now it's the easy part of everything. We are going to set the exact same schema as we got previously on our Azure AI Assistant. With a small exception, we don't need the name. Okay, in our function here, we need to declare in this type of syntax the logic app, right? It is the name parameter, but in reality, we are telling it, go find this logic app. And in the actual logic app, we make copy paste the same schema and we remove the name in the first line. Okay, so this is the same thing exactly as the Azure AI Assistant. We don't mean anything else here. You can, of course, get the code if you want to work with code eventually. Okay, what does a virtual machine need in order to be created? It needs some specific uh, critical mandatory resources to be there or parameters. It needs its name, the virtual machine name. It needs to know the size of it, standard B2 MS or standard D4 and all that nice stuff. It needs to know the location, going to be West Europe, North Europe, East US, and the virtual machine operating system. Now, we have a little bit of an issue here that we are going to solve. When we are dealing with Windows operating systems, if you write I want the Windows 11 machine or if I want the Windows 10 machine, it spreads out to two separate categories. The first category is the operating system as we know it, meaning Win 10, 22H2, Pro G2, okay, and these are the SKUs as we know them. And the second is the offer. So in Windows, again, we have Windows Desktop and Windows Server. In order to avoid the complexity of this type of differentiation and make it everything work through the logic app, I'm working only with Windows Desktop. Of course, we can add more variables. We're going to see why I'm telling variables and extend this to Linux operating systems, Windows Server operating systems, and Windows Desktop operating system. In our case, it's going to be Windows Desktop, and we're going to provide the ability to create either Windows 10 or Windows 11. In every case, when the user here will tell the assistant create a Windows 10 VM as the operating system, the variable here it's going to select the latest version of Windows 10. It's going to write Windows 10 because the Azure Resource Manager needs this information to create the first, to get the first parameter, which is the offer, and the second parameter, which is the SKU. Okay, in our case, the SKU is the latest one, at least when I created this. This is for Windows 10 and this is for Windows 11. So again, when someone says, I want the Windows 10 VM, we're going to see how this is spread into two different parameters, the offer and the operating system. Let's continue, and we're going to find it in a few. So how we're going to create a virtual machine via logic apps. So because we moved now from the AI assistants into the actual logic apps workflow. So what's the best way to create a virtual machine with logic apps? Everyone, of course, has their preference. For me, when I started working with this, I have found, and also into other projects that I have worked with logic apps and virtual machine creation, the best way to do it is by utilizing the Azure Resource Manager API. It is fast, it is understandable, and you can break it down by uh, uh, resource, public IP, for example, separate uh, API call. Network interface card, separate API call. The actual VM, separate. The disks, separate. So you can manage it better and have a flexibility over your uh, build process on the VM. The first thing that we need is a public IP. This is optional. We don't have to have a public IP, but I am adding it. So let's see the actual call, the Azure Resource Manager API call is working like this. This is the URL, and we need to add the public IP name. Okay, and I'm getting the name from our logic app. You're going to see in the body, we need to have the location, and that's all. We are specifying the public IP as dynamic and IPv4, and the audience is management.azure.com. This is also an important detail. Okay, what we have done here, let me break this process. We're going to return and see that we have enabled managed identity into our logic app resource with the role assignment of contributor. Okay, we of course could have add other permissions with less privileges, and the best practices instructs us to do that. But for our workshop, Azure contributor is just fine. It can do everything apart from assigning user permissions. So let's go back to our designer. I'm going to take a little bit of a step back. So we are initializing these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variables, which actually are 4 parameters coming from the user. But the first is the name, the size, the location, and if the user says Windows 10, we're going to provide the latest SKU for Windows 10. If the user says Windows 11, we're going to provide the latest version for Windows 11. And this is done through these 2 separate variables. And I'm going to show you, I'm sorry, why. So again, Azure Resource Manager API call. First of all, we're creating the public IP. This is not mandatory. It is optional. The second thing, and this is, how can I say that? We can don't do it any other way. We need to have first the network interface card. So the second thing we're doing, we are creating a network interface card. And to have a unique type of naming, we are adding this, the name of the VM, right? This is the name of the VM to the name of the network interface card, so we know that this card is for the VM that the user selected the name of. The method is put again, and then the body. The body is this one. You can find everything in Microsoft documentation. You don't need to invent the wheel here. Everything is out there, and in fact, you have a variety of API calls that you can implement through your logic. The best that fits for you will be there. I'm absolutely positive. And if you have complex or specific demands, you will find a way around because of the immense number of examples. The body is here. It is a specific type of body I found in the documentation as well. Be careful. We need to say and specify where are we getting our public IP, okay? And of course, where we are getting the location. These 2 details are initialized as parameters from the start of the logic app workflow. Again, the audience is this one, and you are using the system assigned managed identity. I'm sorry, I closed everything. Going back again to the workflow, the final step. Okay, let's go and create finally the VM. So in the API call, we have in the URL the name that we're going to use, adding the API version at the end, as you saw. It's a put operation, and here is the body. Utilize the location, utilize the VM size parameters coming from the user, utilize the SKU variable that we constructed based on the user input And you can see here that the publisher is Windows Desktop. If we had Windows Server, I had to change this. Okay, so that's why I have selected Windows 10 or 11. If I wanted to be broader in the selection operation, I have to do a little bit more here. Okay, I have to play around with the publisher as well in the variables. I have chosen to make it more simple, but you understand here what's going on. Okay, it's the Windows Desktop Publisher, and this type of publisher needs the offer and the SKU. Okay, which we're breaking down in the earlier steps based on the user selection. We are always adding the latest 10 or 11 version, and this is the syntax. That's why I'm adding this other variable. The syntax needs to be in a specific format, and this is this specific format. So we are telling if we have Windows 10, make it like this. Okay, we cannot force our users to have into the chat to write into the chat exactly the syntax that we need. So because logic apps are so smart and so flexible, we can add our own snippet here and manipulate the input and provide it to the correct syntax that the JSON body expects in order the resource manager to be able to execute correctly. Now, an important detail that I want to show you here is the virtual network. And here is the disk, okay, adding a locally redundant storage. The network interface card, okay, that's why we created it in a step earlier. The computer name is the computer name, a password here. Again, I could have added the password as a variable that the user provides in the chat, but I make it more like of an enterprise. Now, in that case, the user will never provide the password. It will be already set by an organization. And we can also have added a logic here that would said create a random thing, and we could have added it as a variable as well. But okay, don't make it too complex. But it is doable. Finally, again, I'm trying to find the virtual network, and because I have it already there, network interfaces. Okay, yes. The resource group is already there as well. No, the network is in the network interface card body, if I remember correctly. Yes. When we create the virtual network interface card, it needs a network to reside in. And actually, not just a VNet, it needs a subnet. So in the body, I am declaring the subnet that I have already pre-provisioned. Okay, so two details that are important here. First, you can add also the ability for the user to either create or select the virtual network. You need to add these variables here so you can translate it into the correct syntax or a logic or task for the logic app to be able to execute. And you can also uh, add operating system variety. Okay, again, you need to be able to translate the logic here. For example, if it was Linux or Windows Server, you need to play around with the publisher. All right, I'm sorry for that. So let's go to the actual example. We have here our schema, and let's go and see what we can make out of this. The time of truth. Okay, the last time that we used it, it had its own problems, but I'm confident that today it will work. I will show you how fast it will create the virtual machine. It's really impressive. Let's start with the first question. By the way, we have also another logic app. Let me show you that used to do something else. Let me show you. It's worth having a look at it as well. This logic app with the AI assistant, what it does, it summarizes WordPress posts. This is a more simple one, very simple. And because the WordPress API, it's, how can I say that? It's very accessible. Okay, it's easy to access. I have selected this one to be the most simple display of the Azure AI assistants. We can have a look at it later. I prefer to check the VM creation process in case we see any errors or something happens. We would be able to resolve it. But I'm sure we're going to do it correctly now. Be careful. You need to create the virtual machine since you are not selecting the virtual network in the same region, right, with your virtual network. So let's say sorry, create a new VM. I'm not going to tell it exactly what. Let's see what it will do. Now you can see that the language model here, it's taking over, okay? I can help you with that. Let's start by getting the details of the VM. What you would like to name your VM. So it's following the instructions as set by us here in the instructions uh, text box. How would you like to name it? Let's name it CL02 VM. Okay, we need the location. So I'm going to add Sweden Central here. Again, we could have added the type of workflow, the type of task into Logic App to make it more flexible and either have a specific set of regions available with separate virtual networks or provide the ability to the user to create the virtual network or even the subnet, it depends on the use case, through this chat. We're going to tell it Sweden Central. Okay, now the size. Now, I have seen some issues with a B2MS, and it's about the accelerated networking thing, because my network interface card already has accelerated networking enabled, and this type of VM does not support it. So I want to select a standard D4S, but I don't remember the syntax. Yeah, I need this type of size. So let me find the correct D4 by 4. Okay, let me see. I need the V series. So DSV. Yes, this is the one I'm looking for. So D4S before would be fine. I hope it is supported. And we have also the 3, the version 3, right? If I remember correctly. But let's go with a new one. So yeah, this size. Standard D4S before. Hope it is supported. Let's see. Got it. Finally, what operating system would you like to use for your VM? Okay, I want Windows 10. Now, before I press, I will press send. I will leave this place and I will go back here to the run history. And you see that the Logic App is already running. Let's see what will happen. It is running and it is succeeded. It took 8.12 seconds. The VM is ready. Let me show you. Here it is. Just a refresh. Here it is. The VM is ready in in 8.12 seconds. And I can of course connect. I will select the bastion here, and let's go back. And you can see that our beloved assistant, in this case, has already been able to provide all the details of the deployment with the VM success message. The VM has been successfully created with the following details. Now, if we go back to our Logic app, while this bastion is building, let me open it in a new tab, no worries. Although this is a bad practice, and I'm seeing already problems when you have multiple Azure portal tabs open. But okay, I'm doing what I'm telling others not to do anyway. And let's see here in our task what we have done at the end. At the end, and this is also important, when you have created your logic, you have to add a new response, right? Task with the status code that it should be accepted as correct, and you can you can add also different things in the body. In the first version of this preview, this message was able to return to my assistant, if I remember correctly. Yes, this was the case. Now I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing that the assistant is here to tell me that everything is okay. Again, this task is mandatory. You have to add a new, let me show you, a new action that will be named, that you will find it as, uh, find it, response, if I remember correctly. Yes, you have to add an, a request task of type response. And this is the same thing. Request. No, HTTP. Request is for the beginning. Let me find it. New HTTP request. It's not this one. Let me find it. Yes. No, neither this one. New HTTP request for the initial task. This is the when an HTTP request is received. So you have to add this type of task, okay, and this type of task when. Come on, HTTP request. It's not this one. Come on. Okay, I'm going to find it through this one. Yeah, the type is request. Okay, you need to add the task of type request. Yes, this one. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's it's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? When an HTTP request is received. No, it's not the same thing. I need a new request. Delete this one. I need a new when HTTP request is received. Maybe because I have already here, I will try to create a new one. But this is what we are looking for, okay? A new HTTP request is received. Start with your Logic app and end it with this one. Okay, this is what the assistant expects to find to be able to close your call. And what time is it? Yes, I think we have 10 minutes, and we can see also the other example as well. Let me have a look also in the comments here. Uh, I think you can see my screen. Okay, no, yeah, I remember that detail. Thank you for pointing that out. I was looking at me and suddenly I saw it change. So I was okay. I said, okay, this is working. Good. Important considerations. I know that this looks a little bit of amazing or nice or helpful. I won't say amazing. I'll say it is helpful. Okay, you are able to create, for example, a learning portal, right, and add this ability here, so the user can write down, I want to create this and this and this and this and this and this, and if the user makes a mistake, then the language model can intervene there and tell the user that what you are trying to create is wrong, or you should be able to create it, but you need to change the naming, for example, if they try to add a storage account with capital letters, that type of stuff. We can integrate them into your process through the Logic Apps deployment. This is the simplest one, with some automation that really makes sense of what AI assistants are about. Okay, and imagine what you can do with your own data. Okay, you can add a lot of more abilities and capabilities to your process when you want to deal and work with your own data. um, yes, important considerations in this case, in this specific case of the VMs. Be careful of the size that you are going to use, that it is supported. Be careful with accelerated networking and try to either, mm, how can I say that, have it uh, have it play no difference whether the machine will be created or not, or if you are going to enable it, be careful with the size that it actually supports accelerated networking. Uh, my suggestions: don't try to create the VM with another way. This is by far the fastest one. 8 seconds, it's amazing. And if you see my run history, I think this is because it was the first time this thing ran after the 17th. In this case, it took 5 seconds. In this case, it took 3 seconds. It's amazing. And it created the public IP, the network interface card, the actual virtual machine, and it is not an estimation of the duration, it's the actual time it took. And of course, the nice thing here is that it's not about the AI assistants, it's about the Azure Resource Manager API that it has turned into an absolute fast way to deploy virtual machines. That's why I'm telling you, do not try to do it with another way. You can try it, but you will see that this is the better way to do it. And of course, you have the ability to play around with different um, variables. You can add Linux, you can add Windows Server, and everything has to do with the publisher. So this is the detail that makes the difference. You need this thing first, and if you want the public IP first, this one. If you don't need the public IP, you need this thing and then the VM. Okay, this is a lesson learned from my interaction with this type of logic here in the logic apps. Create your managed identity, add the required permissions if you want to go through your organization to perform a POC or anything else. Pay attention to security. Hopefully, we will be able to do this in standard plans. Again, I think I saw somewhere that we probably will have the ability to do it. I'm not sure. I don't want to tell you something that's not there. I'm confident with this one. So consumption is for now. Lots of possibilities. I agree with you. Yes, I agree. Thank you. Thank you as well for being here. We have 6 minutes. Maybe what we can do is go and see the other assistant. If you have any questions, please write them down. I will be happy to discuss with them and answer them to you. Please go to this site This is my blog. You will find the exact same uh, post that explains everything as we did it today. You will find more stuff quite interesting, I believe. Uh, and you will find also the code and everything in the GitHub repo. Uh, the assistance is the previous one, I'm sorry. This is the one, okay? It's cloudblogger.eu. You will find amazing stuff there. I have spent a lot of time to tell you the truth. I don't want to be, negative towards myself because I did spend time on these projects, and some of them are really, really amazing. Um, Again, you can contribute to GitHub. You can make suggestions. You can take everything you want. It's open source and do it yourself. Let's get the other assistant. Have a quick look before we close. This is the blog assistant that does something much, much simpler. This assistant is summarizing blog posts. So all and all it does, yes, this is another thing that you may face. This red thing. In this case, you are not going to be able to run your logic here, your function. What does it mean? You have to go to manage, select it. This is the other logic app that I have. Okay, you see what I did? I went to manage, selected the actual logic app, press save, but return to the custom thing and repress save. Okay, if you see this red thing here, you need to, maybe you just need to remove it and re-add it. Just copy the functional code of yours and repaste it there. That's it. So here I think it's summarize the latest cloud. It needs a WordPress site, cloud review blog post. And if everything checks out, it will try to summarize the latest blog post from the WordPress site. Again, the term automation is, yes, and this is the summarization of the blog post. It's the bot framework. It is correct. The WordPress API, it is, it is working. Yes, it is working, and you can call it through your Logic App. You will find this the other assistant as a challenge into the same post. So don't worry, everything is there for you, so you can play around. And this is a nice summarization. And of course, you can instruct the assistant to summarize with 100 words, or you can summarize with more words, or add other things to the instructions so you get the specific response that you are looking for. The next steps for AI assistants, I will try to do it regardless the preview, is start calling them by code. Okay, we will try to call the AI assistants by code. So we are going to try to initialize our automation, our AI automation, through our web application or through our application, simply our application. I think it will be very beneficial to see how it responds to the actual code. And there, if you are able to do it by code, the possibilities are really, really open, and there is no limit there. Here we're limited. Somehow we have a limitation through the user interface. You can see that we have some things here and some things there. It's not really ready. Let's see how the code thing goes. If you have any ideas, kindly send me a message. I'm fully on board to work with someone that is interested into this type of technologies. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. I hope you liked this presentation, and have a great day, night, or morning. Bye bye.
Thank you very much, Konstantinos. Great presentation, great demo. So thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for sharing today. Looks like some great comments in terms of things that people have learned today in terms of possibilities
Great.
in working in the platform. So thank you very much for sharing, and thank you everybody for attending this Cloud Lunch and Learn. Until next time, enjoy. Have a great day.